Alexandra with Magellan College Counseling. This is the 14th time you've seen me do this on a Thursday, and this is the last. And I truly, truly saved the best for last. So I am so excited to have Sophia Nunez and Alexandra Rockman with me. Both of them are former clients of mine. We'll start with Alexandra, who just completed her freshman year at Georgia Tech. I really asked them to come talk to me today because I wanted you to get the student perspective. So, you know, for the last 13 weeks, we've talked to admission deans and test prep people, and we've talked about pre-med, and we've talked about essays. But I really wanted you to get, you know, somebody's perspective of what it's like to go through this stressful process other than your own child, because your own child isn't going to tell you how stressful it is. So Alexandra, you went through this a couple of years ago at this point. It's been a while. And just tell us a little bit about your journey through the, you know, the college search and application process, and then what your freshman year was like and what your sophomore year might be like. This is crazy.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Alexandra. I graduated in 2019, which is crazy. I can't believe my freshman year is already over. But going back to the college process for me, I never expected that I was going to be going to Georgia Tech at all. Evelyn knows this. Like, I almost didn't even apply to Georgia Tech.
Many times.
I was not considering it whatsoever.
Many times it almost came off the list.
Yeah, exactly. But now I literally can't see myself anywhere else. I'm so happy. I love my school. It's great. But yeah, I think going through the college process, honestly, my expectations were a bit unrealistic. I had a lot of reach schools on my list, and I ED'd to UPenn, and that was like my dream school at the time. I got deferred and then rejected, and I just had so many Ivy Leagues on my list and reaches, and like I didn't really give other schools the chance, or really like research schools that were just as good, just didn't have like, I didn't hear about them as much.
Right.
So I applied to most schools as a business major. But then at Georgia Tech, I found a major called industrial engineering, which is basically the engineering behind business. So making businesses like move faster, more efficiently. And that's my major now. And I love it. So I definitely recommend looking into other majors that you may have not heard of before, and just researching, looking for what you're interested in. Because it may not just be like communications or business or things that you've heard of in your daily life. So then when it came to choosing a college, I had gotten into the 3 UCs I applied to: Georgia Tech, Northeastern, Tulane. What am I missing? I'm starting to forget where I got in. I think those were the ones that I was like, that I had gotten into and was choosing between, and ultimately it came down to UCLA or Georgia Tech. And with UCLA, they didn't have the major I was looking for. They don't have business majors, and they don't have industrial engineering. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to major in at UCLA, but it felt comfortable and it was close to home. So I was thinking, like, I want to stay close to home. Like, who knows what's going to happen? And then Georgia Tech.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. And now we're in a global pandemic. But anyway,
you know.
Then Georgia Tech had the perfect major for me. And I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone, but I was really just scared. So then I talked to Evelyn about it, and I also went to go tour the college, and I loved it. Like, I love Atlanta so much. The campus is beautiful. The people are very nice. I took a tour and I fell in love with it. So then I committed to Georgia Tech, and yeah. And then I had my freshman year, which ended abruptly, but it was great. It was definitely a hard transition at first, because like I hadn't been away from home for that long, and making friends was a little bit hard as well, just because most people who go to Georgia Tech are from Georgia or the nearby states. So that was like a very hard transition for me. But after like 2 months, I would say I was very adjusted. I loved it. I made friends. Classes became easier. So I would just say like the first couple months are difficult, but once you get past that hump, it's like pretty much smooth sailing. That's what I would say. I had a great freshman year. I can't wait to go back.
That's awesome. So just so everyone knows, I have told both Sophia and Alexandra, this is not a fishing expedition. I'm not looking for compliments. And I said the same thing to the parents. No, for real. I said the same thing to the parents that I interviewed, because we're looking for truth here. We're looking for reality. So I appreciate And your case is kind of funny to me because you totally were about to take Georgia Tech off your list like 800 times. But and I was like, just trust me. But Sophia, your experience was a little bit different. So tell us a little bit about, you don't have to name names, but you went to a pretty competitive high school, as did you, Alexandra, just sort of different situation. But Sophia, tell us kind of how your process went and how you made the decisions you made.
Yeah, so I went to super competitive high school, where like everyone's like, "Oh, you Chicago or bus," and it's like, "What are you saying right now?" And so my parents were like, "Let's get her a college counselor early because this seems like it's gonna be a lot." So Evelyn's heard me go through like 4 or 5 schools as my ED, and I was like, "What if to preface, I'm doing a combined degree program at Tufts, so I will be majoring in studio art, and then my other major will be at the School of Arts and Sciences, and I'm considering either art history or mathematics. So a big part of what I was looking for through the college process was a school that I could do both art and other stuff at. So obviously Brown Raised D's program came into mind, and I was talking to Evelyn about that for a while, but it was a bit too much of a reach for me, and I was like, how much do I want to commit to like this huge reach? And RISD ended up not being an art school that I really wanted to go to, which is why I eventually decided to not look into it. So I applied to dual degree programs. I at one point was like, U Chicago, like everyone else at my school. But I eventually, maybe around like mid-summer before senior year, decided that Tufts seemed like a really good fit for me. I visited the art school, SMFA, which Tufts owns, and I really fell in love with it. And then I visited Tufts campus later on after I decided I was going to ED there. And then I remember texting Evelyn, like, I want to submit tonight. Like, this is the place for me. I was fortunate enough to get in, but like the month or two before getting in, I went to school with like a blanket around my, like the week before getting in, I was like so stressed and I was crying all the time because it was like just really nerve wracking. Yeah. But I think I ultimately ended up at a school that I'm super excited to go to. All the people I've met in the group me's and stuff like that are really fun. So even though senior year got cut short, I'm excited to try college.
So Alexandra, you also went to a pretty stressful high school, public, totally different situation, but really, really high expectations. Talk to us a little bit about that stress of the expectations at your high school.
Yeah, so at my high school, the expectations were very high. It was public, but it was a magnet school, so it was very competitive, and people were always talking about schools with like big names, like Ivy Leagues and schools of that caliber. And so I feel like I was very much influenced by that until I talked to Evelyn, and we came up with a plan where I applied to all types of schools. I had reaches, I had safeties, I had target schools, and I had a very balanced list because some people at my high school who didn't apply to a balanced type of schools, they ended up with not the choices that they wanted in the end.
Yep.
So they had talked about all of these Ivy Leagues and stuff, but then when it came to May, they weren't signing those schools.
Right.
So I think that students may talk about going to an Ivy League and all of these schools, but they don't really know what it's like. So I think talking to a college counselor about it and going through the process and applying to schools of every type really helps.
Yeah. And
can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Also, don't go for a school just because it has like the Ivy label on it. Because like Columbia and Brown could not be more different. And I can't really think of a person who should have both on their list.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly. I always use those two as an example. And the way I say it is, if you fit at Brown, you're not going to fit at Columbia. Like if Brown people are your people, Columbia people are not your people. Sophia, talk to us a little bit about the expectations at your school, because you mentioned in December there were tiers at your school.
Yeah, no, there was, my school has sent people to crazy, we have, I think these are the school newspaper published which schools most people are going to. 21 to NYU, 14 to U Michigan, 12 to U Chicago, 12 to Wash U. So, and then there's like 7 to Stanford, a ton to Brown, a ton to Columbia. So our school's like really into sending people to cool high places, but a lot of them were actually deferred or got in regular decision, and or they were waitlisted, and because of Corona this year they got on later. But I had a lot of friends who, you know, applied to schools that were kind of above their reach, and they had to deal with it. And especially because my school is like so well known, it was pretty shocking for a lot of students to realize that like just the name of the school and like good grades there doesn't get you in to your dream college.
Well, it's interesting what you just said. The wait lists were very generous this year.
Mm-hmm.
Very, especially for
my friend just got off the Brown wait list yesterday.
You're kidding.
And she's going.
Oh my God.
I can't imagine going to college in 1 month, like finding that out.
Wow, that's crazy. I actually have another student who got off the wait list at Brown. I have another student who got off the wait list where? Maybe it was Brown. He's going to Stanford, but yeah. So this is kind of a little bit touchy, and I love both of your parents, but were your parents part of the source of some of the stress for you?
Yeah.
maybe all of it? No, I'm kidding. How did you cope with, you know, and Sophia, so here's an interesting dichotomy. You got into your early decision school. Alexandra, you did not. So your December was not so fun a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with that. How did that, you know, how did you carry through that?
So actually I felt like my parents were being supportive along the way up until it came to choosing the college. So like when we toured Penn and they saw how much I loved it, they were fully supportive of me EDing there. And then once I got deferred, they were like, it's okay, we can do something about it, we can write a letter, whatever. And then once it came down to between UCLA and Georgia Tech, my mom was really pushing for UCLA, like very much. Like we actually got in a fight during the tour at UCLA because I was like, I had already toured Georgia Tech and I had my mindset on it, but they felt like I wasn't really giving UCLA a chance. I had just really loved what Georgia Tech had to offer, and in terms of like my major and everything. So when it came down to make the final decision, that was really hard because my dad had went to tour Georgia Tech with me, so he was really in support of it, but then my mom hadn't been there yet, so she really wanted UCLA, so we were kind of like a house divided. So it really took a lot of convincing to get my mom on board with Georgia Tech, but now my parents are so happy I went there. They love my major, they love the school, and also now that the economy is not as good, they feel like my major is going to prepare me to get a job in this economy.
Totally.
So they're really happy that I went with Georgia Tech.
Sophia,
definitely took some convincing.
yeah. So Sophia, sort of similar. How do you feel about where your parents landed on all this?
Well, you know this, that my parents were very not in support of me going to an art school for a very long time. That took a lot of arguing and talking to Evelyn about, and my dean at school about like, what is Sophia going to be happy doing? But eventually it came down to like a little bit, they're like, well, if you're doing dual degree, then at least you're doing something useful as well as art. And I was like, cool, thanks for that mindset.
Yeah, but you're opposite on that. Alexandra's doing something immediately employable and useful, and you're a blight on society. You'll never amount to anything.
I got 5 years to figure this out, but also 5 years of tuition. Right. So that was pretty stressful, but I think the brunt of the stress was just narrowing down the list and being like, can we have some art schools on there? But the combined degree programs, I think, made them feel a lot more secure about my future and willing to help me pay for college.
Yep. Did either of you have friends who pushed you in either good ways or bad ways as far as like, you know, reputation was concerned?
Yeah, I felt like, okay, so once I got into UCLA, because that came, wait, did that come before Georgia Tech? I don't really remember.
Oh, yeah, you got into Georgia Tech early.
I did. Okay, wait, so UCLA came after it, but the name UCLA, just because we're in LA, like, the name is huge.
Yeah.
So everyone was like, how can you deny UCLA? And then I had friends who didn't get in who were like, it would be stupid of you not to take this. Like, this is such a great opportunity. How could you not take it? But it's like, people don't know about Georgia Tech just because we live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
But if you look up engineering rankings, it's in the top 5 for every engineering program. Not that rankings really matter, but like, it's known. So I had a lot of friends pushing me for UCLA.
Yeah.
But I still stuck with Georgia Tech, and I'm really glad I did.
And no regrets. And it was a big decision. I mean, I remember having that conversation with you about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
And then even when I got there for the first couple months, I was thinking of transferring. Like, I was not, it was a really hard transition. I felt like I didn't fit in at all. Classes were really tough. Yeah, I wanted to transfer closer to home, but then once I made it through that hump, I felt like I don't want to go closer to home.
You found your groove.
Yeah, and I felt really happy.
Yep. Sophia, what about friends at school? Again, difficult environment.
Yeah, at my school's environment, it's like there's a story of 2 girls who were applying to, let's just say, some Ivy League, and then one of them caught a photo of the other doing an illicit activity and then sent it to that school.
Oh my God.
So that's the competitive nature of my high school.
Wow.
And so I made the decision to not tell anyone where I was applying. So I just kept it under wraps. I was more open about where I was applying regular, because everyone at my school applies early admission to Michigan. It's just like the culture of the school.
Yeah.
But like ED, I kept super I was like, I'm just not going to talk about this. I think the biggest pressure I got to apply somewhere was from my parents, who are both Stanford graduates, and so they were both like, go to Stanford. And I was
that was a very difficult conversation.
Yeah.
To have multiple times in your household.
Yeah, I was always like, I don't have the grades for that with what my school, or like with what they expect from my school. And it's like, I've also grown up like thinking Stanford. And I was like, I can't deal with getting rejected from there. And
interesting, I've heard from a lot of kids over the last couple of years, I don't want to go to the same school that my parent went to. Honestly, part of the reason is I don't want to feel like part of the reason I got in was because they went there. I want to feel like I got in on my own talent. And I've had to deal with that. I've dealt with kids not applying to certain schools because of that. I mean, for you, Sophia, it just wasn't a fit. Like you.
Yeah. And honestly, like when I think about Stanford, it's this like gorgeous place, but it's also, I know if I got in, it'd be because I'm a double legacy, because the other kids from my school who got in have like 4.7 GPAs and are like the valedictorian.
Yeah. No, and I've had to deal with other kids who have gotten into their parents' alma maters, and it's like a little version of imposter syndrome. And if you're going to make that choice to apply, you have to get over the imposter syndrome, and you have to be okay with knowing that that's a part. It's not the whole process, but it's a part of the process. You have to be okay with that. So Alexandra, your stress did not end in December. You did have some acceptances, and you were actually very good about being happy about all of them, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But you still had to, carry that stress into second semester of your senior year.
Yeah, I had a lot of rejections. I had a couple wait lists as well. But yeah, most of my reach schools, I honestly don't think I got into. So that was tough. It was like a lot of rejections in a row. And it was really hard to like keep my head up and keep going, because I was like, I worked so hard in high school, and like I'm getting rejected from all these places, and I feel like I'm not going to be happy at any of the schools I got into. But in reality, that wasn't true at all. I feel like I would have been happy at several of the schools I got into. So
how did you get over that adjustment period? Because this is one of the, I always say to parents, all I want for your child is for them to be happy and successful. So how do you know that you're finding a place where you'll be happy?
I just felt like I really fit in there. People are so hardworking and just have the same mindset about school as me. And I made friends. It took a while for me to make friends, but I did make friends. I joined a sorority.
Yeah.
I joined many clubs, and it took me like several clubs to find the clubs that I'm actually interested in.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you join a few clubs and you're like, this isn't really my thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if freshmen will be living in dorms next year, but I made really good friends on my floor. I got really lucky.
Okay.
Just like people on my hall, we would bump into each other in the bathroom, and then we would start talking and we'd become friends. So just finding people with like similar mindsets as you really helped.
Are your friends mostly your major or mostly not your major?
No.
Yeah.
My friends are mostly not my major, actually. I have a few friends in my major. I also haven't taken any classes specific to my major yet.
Got it.
So I assume that once I start that this semester, I'm going to make more friends in my major.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are from my sorority or from my floor or from the clubs I joined. I would say that's the majority.
Okay, and when you say your sorority, is it a social sorority? Is it a professional sorority?
Yeah, I'm in a social sorority.
Okay, because there's been a proliferation of Greek organizations.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Sophia, your major is, well, your program, like you said, is a 5-year program.
Yeah.
Do you feel, so are you already talking with some incoming freshmen? Like, how are you connecting with people?
Yeah, so this year it was super important to everyone to like hop on the group me's, and everyone's been really intact with that. I remember in December I actually made a group chat with a couple other people in my program, and there's about 100 people in my program each year. So I have a group chat, and I was like texting them earlier today. So I know they're going to be with me for the next 5, but then yeah, it was really just all about like being active in GroupMe. I have another group chat. We're going to like Zoom later on tonight because we do that like twice a week maybe. We just have all started really talking.
That's great.
And it's because of like stupid common interests like Avatar: The Last Airbender or stuff like that.
This is interesting. Do you feel like, for both of you, that this whole corona isolation situation has changed your idea of community?
Yeah, I definitely think so, just because when I was at college and all of my friends and I would hang out, it was very much like in person, and, you know, like we would go to the library and study together, or we would go out together. But then like right when I started feeling really comfortable, we got sent home.
Yeah.
And so my friends and I had to adjust to that. And we had to, instead of like seeing each other in person, going to the library and getting coffee, like we had to start FaceTiming and Zooming, something we weren't really used to.
Right.
Especially because we had just met each other in August or September.
Right.
So we've been like very reliant on technology recently. And it's crazy because we haven't seen each other almost as long as we've known each other.
Wow, that's so true.
Yeah, so like we haven't seen each other in 6 months, and we kind of only knew each other for 6 months, which is really crazy.
Interesting. And you are getting on a plane. I'm sorry, Sophia, tell us how you feel about community.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I live an hour and a half away from my high school, so that was my commute every day. So I've always been really into technology to keep in touch with people. So this kind of just like kept it going. But it was still really weird to like have to say goodbye to high school that way.
Yes.
And the community in high school really shifted a ton because we were all like, how do we say goodbye virtually, but then give this like a proper send off?
Did you guys have a graduation?
We had a drive-through graduation, and we had a cardboard cutout of our headmaster, and we would go up with our diploma and pose with him. So that was fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so you guys, I was actually surprised to learn that these ladies are both getting on planes and heading to the East Coast later, well, Alexandra in a week. So, and Sophia, I missed when you're going. How many weeks?
They haven't told me yet.
They haven't told you yet. Wow. So what have they told you?
As of yesterday, we got our roommates. Mine is a very intimidating girl from Macedonia.
You have a roommate.
I have a roommate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're putting you into pods. They're putting you.
We have pods of like 6 to 12 people, and they're the people who we share a bathroom with on our floor. And those are the only people we're allowed to be close contact with. And we're getting tested twice a week. And anyone who's not from New England has to quarantine for 14 days in your room.
In your room. So how are you going to do that with your roommate who's from Macedonia?
We don't know if she's able to come because their embassy is closed. Oh. But like the two of us will just be in there for 2 days or for 14 days if she comes.
14 days. Wow. And when you say close contact, so you will be going to class physically?
Yeah, we can go to class physically. They greatly reduced class sizes. Masks have to be worn everywhere except for your own room.
Okay.
And then all art classes are actually virtual this year.
All art classes are virtual. Wow. Is that going to work?
Yeah, they're gonna let you go in for studio time, but you just have to reserve it and then like reserve a shuttle to make sure that there's like no capacity,
Yep.
like no overcapacity. So that'll be an interesting way to start college.
And the shuttle takes you back and forth between the Medford campus and SMFA. How far is that? 20 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
But you're going to live on the Medford campus.
Mm-hmm.
When you do your 5th year, where will you be living?
I think I can live off campus or Medford, maybe.
Okay. Interesting. And Alexandra, what have they told you about your living situation?
So basically, I'm planning to live in my sorority house, and the way that they're regulating that is like no active members allowed in the house, only girls who are living in the house are allowed in.
Yep.
Masks need to be worn everywhere except for your own room. We have assigned bathrooms. Everything is very regulated and strict. I'm still deciding if I'm going to stick with that or find my own apartment. In terms of classes are mostly online with some in-person component.
Yeah.
So like my bio lab will have some in-person meetings. But for the most part, most of my classes will be online. We have testing weekly, and masks need to be worn at all times.
Does any of that make either of you nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I wasn't that nervous until yesterday night, just because I realized I'm leaving in a week. Yeah. And I'm very nervous about it because hypothetically, if I do catch it, my family is very far away and I'm not sure what I would do.
Yep.
But our campus is providing quarantine like spaces. Mm-hmm. So worst comes to worst, I would have to stay in one of those for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I am very tired of being home. So
I think we all are.
Yeah.
We all are. I feel like this added a layer of stress onto all of our lives that like none of us has ever felt stress like this before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a big change.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention, Tufts built modular homes on the tennis courts for anyone who has corona. Wow. So no tennis at Tufts this year, and you might have to do the winter with corona on the tennis court.
Jesus.
Yeah, the winter on the East Coast makes me a little nervous. Okay, and your Thanksgiving situations are both different. So Sophia, what are they doing with you? They're sending you home before Thanksgiving.
No, we are staying till December, staying through
Thanksgiving. Can't go home for Thanksgiving.
Can't go home. My friends and I say we're gonna have Friendsgiving and then I'll zoom into my family when I get them.
So this is a benefit of being 3 hours later. So you'll have Friendsgiving with your friends, and then hours and hours later, you'll zoom into your family Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Alexandra, they are sending you home before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're going fully virtual after Thanksgiving. So they're sending everyone home for Thanksgiving.
So interesting. If you were a rising high school senior this year, putting coronavirus aside, which is not really possible to do, but is there any way you would have approached your college search differently? Is there anything you regret or think you did wrong or would have done better?
I think mine is actually listening to Evelyn when I have to write essays. So I was lucky that the 2 that I wrote on time and submitted got me into a school, and I didn't have to worry about the regular decision ones. But I remember the week before ED came out, I met with Evelyn, and we were like, you still have like 3 essays to write. And I'm like, can we just wait until after to see, please? And I remember texting her the day I got it, and I go, won't be seeing you next week. Like, yeah. But actually making sure that you stay on like task with your essays is super helpful, because when they pile up, it's the worst thing ever. Yeah. And then that just ended up with me removing random schools from my list because I was like, I don't want to write this essay.
Yeah, we did that, didn't we? I remember that. Yep. Alexandra, do you remember
Yeah,
that?
I got really tired of writing essays as well. I'm an engineering major, so writing is not my forte. I do not enjoy it. Um, Definitely listening to Evelyn when it comes to making a balanced list, just because I was very overly confident about which schools I thought I was going to get into. And honestly, doing a lot of research into both majors and colleges, because I happened to stumble upon my major just because my dad was at a business dinner and met a guy who was an industrial engineering major. But I think that if I did more research into majors, I would have found this major myself and could have applied to schools that have other good industrial engineering programs. Although the industrial engineering program at Georgia Tech is number one. So anyways, I'm very happy where I ended up. I don't think I would want to be anywhere else, to be honest. Like, I don't even think I would want to be at Penn. I think I would have transferred out of Wharton just because it's too competitive.
Yeah.
So
So
I
it's so
think I
funny.
found a happy medium.
Yeah, which is awesome. You know, I've seen this happen before where a student applies early decision and then they don't get in, and then they get into their second choice school, which turns out to be the best choice they ever would have made. And the early decision school would have been, you know, a disaster.
Exactly.
So I've definitely seen that happen before.
Yeah, but with me, Georgia Tech was like my 8th choice. So like, even if you don't end up in your top choices,
well, for a while it was your like 14th choice, and I was like
not up there at all.
Right. But at the same time, you really get your heart set on something and you sort of force yourself to believe that it's really right, because you have lots of external pressure, you know, telling you this is the right choice. And it's not just parents, it's your school, it's, you know, it's everything around you. So
exactly.
I feel like how do you grow a suit of armor and like let that bounce off you? How do you do that when you're 17 years old, 18 years old?
I think that's like the big problem with the college process, is because it takes a lot of self-evaluation, which is hard for anyone of any age to do. And then you put it on the task of a 17-year-old who's like, this is my future. I think the most important thing is a little bit, don't talk to your friends about it.
Totally.
Like, talk to your friends, maybe if you're stressed, you're like, I'm stressed, but you don't have to go into big details about things, because you want to make sure that your friends aren't telling you, oh, you know, art school's stupid, it's a waste of money. And you don't want to be telling your friends, oh, you're going to be an econ major, gross, or something. Because like, my friend really loves econ. Like, I don't know what econ is, but maybe they do. I think it's really just looking at like what you could see yourself 50 years from now still doing and being happy, like regardless of whether or not you're making money, because art school, but like, happy doing it, that's gonna like, and everyone says that, but like you really need to like look at yourself and not what anyone else is saying.
Well, and you guys are the, you know, the social media generation, so it's not just don't talk to your friends, it's like don't Insta, like don't take a video of you submitting your ED application, right? Because that could just go bad.
Yeah.
Right? Do you guys know anyone who did something stupid like that?
I feel like I see it all over.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with Sophia about not talking to your friends, because the big thing at my school as well was applying to Michigan for some reason. But like, I don't like the cold. So like, I didn't apply to Michigan. I knew that I didn't want to do that, but like people kept applying to Michigan. I didn't understand why. And there were so many schools that everyone applied to, but I think just evaluating where you would be happy is like very important, because I know I would be happy there.
Right, but this is the question. How do you evaluate that? Like, thank God you are happy where you are, but it was a struggle to get there, first of all. And how did you, but you know, you said it was the visit, like you visited and you felt like.
It's really hard at 17 to know what you want to do, where you want to do it.
Right.
So I definitely think touring helps, but I don't know at the same time, because there's only one school that I toured that I didn't like. So it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because like on the tour, they hide things. Like I'm going to like they really hide things very well. So make sure to ask questions. And then also after the tour, walk around the neighborhood and see what you think.
Yeah.
And like if you could see yourself living there.
Yeah.
Because for example, like on the Georgia Tech tour, they didn't really show the housing, but the housing is terrible.
Oh,
so like the dorms are really bad. So make sure you look into that. But at the same time, that's not super important to me.
sometimes I feel like there are some schools that don't feel like they have to make their housing awesome because they have something else.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you said that, because when I toured Carnegie Mellon a couple years ago, the dorms look like they were built in 1954.
Same with our dorms.
They don't look like they've been updated since 1956. So I walked past those dorms and I was like, I cannot imagine any of my students living in this dorm. But it's Carnegie Mellon; they don't care. Like
exactly. Like they don't put their money into our dorms; they put money into labs and stuff.
Right, which is where you want it. And Sophia, they put their money into buying art schools.
Yeah. No, I would also agree that, like, I know it sucks because you're in Corona and it's hard to travel and tour places, but I would ask students, this is the only place where I would say, like, talk to people. I would just say, like, hey, what were your vibes when you tour places? Because unlike Alexandra, I toured a lot of schools. I went on my school's, like, college tour trip, 13 schools in 6 days. Like, and I dislike so many campuses. I'm not going to name names because maybe you'll really like that place, but I was like there and I was like, if I go to this school, I will not. So I think this is a really stupid criteria, but the vibe you get. And
I don't think it's stupid at all. I think the vibe, because like you just said, the vibe you get is going to be different than the vibe I get. So it's super personal.
Yeah. And then just also evaluate sort of your social life in high school, which is not going to be what it's like in college, but think sort of like, are you the type of person who has like 2 really close friends, or are you the type of person who's like big like party person, like rager, and like consider that when you're thinking Michigan versus like Oberlin. Like, do you want a small school or do you want a big school? And like look at how happy you would be knowing everyone at your campus, or knowing like 2 people because it's the biggest state school or whatever.
Yeah, definitely size is a big factor.
Interesting. What were the other factors that that you think are important?
Like personally or in general?
Either.
So for me personally, coming from a big city, I wanted another big city.
Yeah.
I wanted a mid-sized school. I didn't want like a really big school, but I also didn't want small liberal arts school.
Yep.
I wanted football. Yeah, so I wanted like a really balanced work hard, play hard type thing.
Yeah.
So like academics, but also social life. That's really what I was looking
for. I found it interesting when I was thinking about you guys that you went from a medium-sized public school to a medium-sized public school.
Mm-hmm.
And you went from a, small private school
to small private school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, something that's really important is diversity, because living in Agora Hills is far from the diversity of LA. Yeah. And so I've grown up having a lot of different experiences than my peers because I've grown up as a brown girl in Agora. Yeah. And that was another thing about tours. If you are like me and care about racial diversity, ask what the school does. Because there will be schools that will be like, oh, these are all of our centers and we'll be happy to show you. And then there are schools who are like, yeah. And like,
here's a picture with our Black guy.
Yeah, this is our Black student. And it's like,
no, it's
no.
Yeah, not enough. Not enough.
So if that's something you really care about, a school's response can really be telling about how they deal with it. Like I have notes on like my little notebook where I took college stuff where I was like, they are very, very white and not trying to change that. So that was something that really mattered. So even though I'm going to a PWI, predominantly white institution, I am still like, the Tufts Latino Center reached out to me today.
Beautiful.
That's something that really mattered to me.
Yep. Thank you for telling everyone what a PWI is. I think that's something that's more and more important to members of your generation, but even more so because you are living that life. So that's personal to you. If you were to give advice to a parent of someone going through the process, either this year or next year, what would you say that they should think about or do or look for or not do?
Don't be scared to send your kids out of state. They're going to grow a lot. And even though they're going to have some challenges, they'll be able to overcome them. Yep. And they'll get through it. And they'll call you. Don't worry.
I love hearing you give the advice that I gave you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's great.
I called my mom a lot. So they shouldn't be worried.
Good.
be happy with your kids' decisions.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not that's like, hey, I've decided this school isn't the right fit for me, so I'm going to choose that one, like with what Alexandra was saying, or if they decide they don't want to apply someplace, or if they want to go into a program that you might not necessarily see as, you know, career building. Because ultimately it's not your life, it's your kids. And even if they do mess up, that's for them to learn. Because I think the worst would be being like, oh, Sophia, you didn't apply to Stanford, cutting you off, sorry, like something like that. Like, it's like your kid is stressed during this. I like cried during classes the week before it came out, and my teacher was just like, yeah, it's just Sophia. But like, what they really need is your support, and you know, every kid kind of wants their parents' approval, so the more you can be positive towards what they're going through, the better.
Yeah. I think it's something parents don't think about. Every teenager wants their parents' approval. You don't often express that to your parent, right? Because there's eye rolling and there's door slamming and there's voice raising, and you know, the parents watching this are like, yes, I have that in my house. Yes, that's what I have in my house. And so eye rolling and door slamming doesn't really translate into, mom and dad, all I really want is for you to tell me that my choices are okay, that what I'm doing is okay, and that you approve of them. So really, really good advice. Thank you guys. I love both of you. It's great seeing you. Any other final words of wisdom before you head into your crazy situations?
I mean, even if you feel like it's not the right fit, it's not permanent. I know so many people transferring, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's a great option too.
Yep, it's true. It's true.
I think this year, a lot of my friends got off of a ton of wait lists.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying only apply to reach schools, because that is a very bad decision, and Evelyn will heavily advise you against that, and she's smart when she says that. But I think don't rule out a place just because you're like a tiny bit nervous, because I have friends who, you know, got into a school that they're actually going to end up really loving just because they were waitlisted. But also make sure you have safeties, make sure you have, you know, target schools.
Make sure you love your safeties.
Make sure you love your safety. Because if, you know, all hell breaks loose and things go really bad and you can only go to your safety, it makes no sense to have chosen a safety that's stupid for you. Not a stupid school, because those don't exist, but stupid for your individual person.
Exactly. I think you're going to take my job. When you don't get a job as an artist, you're going to come do what I do.
Okay. What major do I need to do that?
You can be any major. You should study what you love, and you are going to be a wonderfully successful artist. Do you want people to follow you on Instagram? Do you want people to see your stuff?
If you want to follow me on Instagram, at SNUNEZ art. That's my art account, and it'll be really cool and fun.
Pretty good stuff. Like, she's won some like national awards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
awesome.
You'll see me go through college. That'll be fun. You can always reach out and be like, I saw you on Evelyn's Zoom.
Before you were an artiste. And Alexandra, do you want people to follow you for any reason? You don't have to.
I don't really have a reason, but if you want to follow me, it's just my name.
I thought of another thing. Sorry. I'm doing promo right now. So my friends and I, at the beginning of June, started an account called Student Art Activists.
Okay.
So we had students from all over send us pictures of their work with dimensions and prices, and all of the proceeds went to Black Lives Matter organizations. Beautiful. We've raised over $6,000 for different organizations. So if you want to buy art and donate to a really great cause, that is what you should go follow. It's Student Art Activists on Instagram.
That's beautiful. I love that. Love that. Awesome. All right. Well, ladies, it has been lovely to see you. We didn't get any questions. I think they're all just absorbing everything you said. So thank you, and we are going to sign off. And thank you to everyone for the last 14 weeks who has watched all these great videos. All the videos are up on our website. It's on the live stream page under resources at magellancounseling.com. And we're going to sign off. So thanks very much.